What is going on, Alpha Hunters? It is a very magnificent Monday, and hopefully you had a magnificent weekend this past weekend. I actually did have a great weekend, so hopefully you did. My grandmother turned 93, so we had some family in town celebrating old peopleness, old people celebration. So cool, and let's see what's going on with the markets. We had a nice gap up today, very nice gap up actually on SPY. Q's actually had a pretty rock solid one. Actually, I think like all of them gapped up pretty good. We did gap up about 0.75% here on the SPY. You can see a little bit of a pop, quick drop, all within the first like 45 minutes or so, and then we went on a nice little run back up to the day's highs. So I would have thought maybe here over the past 10 minutes or so that maybe this potentially be a double bottom when we roll back down. Obviously, that would have very much been dependent on breaking this 10 EMA, but you can see here over the past 10 minutes, doesn't really look like that. It could happen. We could just be throwing these little upper wicks that you currently see coming in on the market. Maybe we roll over, and that is a double top. The interesting thing about kind of where the double top is and where we kind of gap to today is that's kind of where the highs were on Friday. So yeah, I mean we kind of gapped up and kind of took out the entire day's performance on Friday today. So SPY currently up 0.9%, looking pretty good. Q's is where the strength is coming from, the big techo area. Big tech supermarket. Okay, Q's up currently 1.25%, and we did gap up roughly about 1.25% as well. That is about where we are. So yeah, I mean, looking pretty good there. On the day, it doesn't look too much indifferent from how the SPY kind of looks. A little bit weaker over the past 10 minutes. So we'll see if that amounts to anything. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. IWM also had a gap up, and this is where the next three are probably going to look about the same, I think. I know the SP will, IWM and RSP will look about the same, but about a 0.4% gap up there on the IWM. Quick little pump, and then it just rolled over. We got negative, actually, a decent amount, like 0.5% or so, a little bit more than 0.5%, about 0.6% negative there on the day. We actually broke Friday's low. Be curious to see what that looks like on the daily when we get there. And then it's just kind of been popping bullish ever since, back to above the open. So not looking too bad. Currently up almost 0.5%. DIA, yeah, same kind of feel to it. Nice little gap up there, about a 0.3% gap up. Dropped off, got negative, didn't take out Friday's lows, and then popped and made it a run back up to the daily highs. Snagged actually the initial open there. Okay, RSP, nice gap up here. We did gap up about 0.4% as well. You can see that little drop off definitely broke that Friday low and making daily highs right now. So RSP not looking too bad. Okay, let's see how the dailies look. And not to say that it looks horrible, right? Not to say it looks horrible. Kind of expected the RSP to go a little bit lower. I was really wanted to definitely fill this gap, maybe down to the 20 EMA. This little gap that we had back from July 11th to July 12th. But I really wanted to see it down here around 166 or so. 166 and a half, 166. So that's kind of what I would like to have seen. I'm not shocked we're getting some bullishness, right? I mean, this is a previous kind of nice little pivot level that we had back in kind of like mid-ish May. And yeah, I'm not surprised we're getting some buying power there. And also we've seen a lot of things pull back. So a lot of things are going to get in support buying opportunities right now. DIA as well. Obviously, the 10 EMA is coming up. It hasn't quite made it back down to these little humps that we had a few months back. So, yeah, well, I understand buying the dip here, especially on on the RSP, DIA, and IWM. I mean, they ripped so hard over the previous 2 weeks that it's like these pullbacks were going to definitely get bought. I just like to see them a little bit lower. Yeah, same thing here with the IWM. Obviously getting kind of close to that 10 EMA, looking somewhat bullish there. Q's has such a strong gap here, but it's just in between the moving averages. Kind of, it might just get sandwiched in here for a few days, and not gonna be surprised, right? When we kind of made it down to this low back from June 24th on Friday, didn't quite break it. We didn't break it, didn't quite break it. No, we just didn't break it. But I mean, we got down to that level, and we're bouncing off of it, right? So if we just trade a little bit higher, come into the moving averages, and then maybe roll over to look like a big old head and shoulders, we'll see if that comes of anything. I mean, other than that, right now, with where we're kind of gapped to today, I'm not really digging the bullish trade. I mean, the idea of being maybe looking for bullishness off the pullback that we've had here over the past like week or so was really because we pulled back so far so fast as well into supports, right? A lot of these have kind of started to pull into like moving averages or different kind of pivot levels. So it just kind of made sense to see somewhat of a bounce kind of come across the markets, and even here on the SPY, which hasn't pulled back nearly as much as the Qs, but I mean, it's a strong day. It's up about 1% now, but getting close to coming into that 10 EMA. It did break that 20 EMA down Friday, but gapped back over it today. It's going to be a pretty important week because, yeah, I mean, if we run back bullish and get back up to the highs that we were putting in last week here on the SPY, yeah, that would be an interesting look. As I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, we could definitely do that. I think more importantly is what are the Qs doing at that point in time as well. So, I mean, obviously, right now, I think I would just kind of be patient, especially if you were looking to potentially, with how Friday kind of closed, the weakness, looking for like a counter trend rally or like a buy the dip kind of rally. With kind of where we gap to on Monday, if you weren't playing the futures, I would just be waiting right now for the most part. See what sets up next. VIX coming down. Okay. VIX did get a little extended. All right, maybe come down to some of these like pivot levels that we had around 14 or 15-ish. Also, we're going to have the moving averages somewhere in there as well. So we'll see. Dollar. DXY. So we kind of talked about at the end of last week with this breakdown and the bounce back up over this 104 level. I want to see what happens. If we consolidate sideways here and then we pop higher, I would imagine this thing is going to be rocking bullish. And I think it's a somewhat decent start. I think it's a really solid start the way that candle comes in today. Obviously, you want to see how this thing closes today. That's going to be the most important thing. You don't want to see it just roll back over. We got plenty of hours left in the trading day to see if this thing does anything. But you can see it traded down initially in the futures or overnight trading. It somewhat bounced, tried to roll back over, and it didn't make a new low. It kind of made a higher low, and it's run back up. So I would say you're probably eyeballing this to maybe see what's going on by close. Maybe starting to dip your toes in if it's going to look like that. I mean, that looks pretty good. I kind of like the way that looks, but we'll see. GLD, the Gold Trust. Not really doing anything, just kind of hanging out a little bit, kind of like the dollar. Just kind of sitting right on top of that 20 EMA. It's kind of where we kind of pivoted, pulled back before. We also have this support from back in June 6th, just under it. So it might be in a little bit of a base spot here, and then we'll have to see what happens here for the next couple of days. But I'd imagine that starts to get into a base spot right there. 10-year yield, gap down. Gap down yields doesn't happen too often, but it happens. Yeah, just kind of hanging out. Not doing a whole lot. Not doing a whole lot after that gap down. It's kind of just traded sideways even throughout the night. Okay. 10-2 inversion, still coming back down. Okay. 10-2 inversion, no longer going higher for now. HYG continuing to push higher. Yields are down a little bit. Bonds are up. Okay. LQD bouncing. TLT trying to bounce. So are we just setting up a little bit longer term? Not longer term, but a longer running, maybe chop pattern than what I was initially expecting. That's possible. It's the cool thing about setting up some of these chop patterns, even if they take a little bit of time, is they start to really define like a range, right? They start to set up the real compression, and once you break that said compression or range, I mean, typically the longer it is, the stronger the move will be after that, and it's just like you just hop on and you just go with it. So yeah, we'll see. Starting to really kind of consolidate in here on some of these bond prices. Take a look at heat map. Communications areas looks like it's going to hit T-Mobile, Verizon, and AT&T there. For Tesla's up 3.5%. Semiconductor stuff is bouncing back. You can see a lot of green over there in the semiconductor world. That's kind of what was getting hit pretty good last week. And as far as sector performance, you can see tech makes perfect sense. Leading the way, up 1.5%. Nice little drop here about 4 minutes ago. A little bit of drop there. All right. Utilities underperforming. Discretionaries, real estate underperforming. Financials, industrials, healthcare underperforming as well. Communications, materials, and then staples and energies at the lower end of the day. Not that many sectors are actually negative, but those two are. I'm kind of interested to go check out energies. As far as intraday performance, what we see here is real estate's actually doing okay there, outperforming on the day. Tech, utilities, financials, energies, discretionaries, all outperforming. In line with the market, healthcare, underperformers, industrials, materials, staples, communications. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Definitely did not see this on Friday. Wow, yeah. So yeah, we had a pretty good breakdown on Friday. So I think last looked at energies. I think it was last Wednesday when we were last green day we kind of had, because I remember we were trading up. And okay, yeah, that's a breakdown there on crude oil. Not exactly the best time to go bearish, but ooh, that is a breakdown. Okay, is gasoline heating? So gasoline's continuing to do that. Yeah, gasoline's trading kind of weak here. Yeah, trading kind of weak there in June because gasoline did not get bought up like that. Not nearly as much of the bullish pop there like crude had in June. Heating oil actually did have a pretty good bounce there in June. Looks a little bit more like crude here over the past couple of months. But yeah, it also had that breakdown on Friday. Okay. So that would be why the energy stocks are not doing well. We had some breakdowns.